Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Racha Kodash. Double honors to the elders and the apostles of Great Millstone, and peace and blessings to the elect. And today we're going to go into the book of Ecclesiasticus, the 48th chapter. Then stood up Elias, the prophet, as fire, and this is dealing with Elijah. Okay, it says here, and his word burned like a lamp. He brought a sore famine upon them, and by his zeal he diminished their number. And this also goes into you had a lot of when you read about Elijah. Remember, he ended up having the prophets of Baal slain. Okay, as after that competition, you could say, of the sacrifice, right, upon whose God would be able to bring their fire down and burn the sacrifice. So during this time, he was able to, at least at that time, diminish a lot of the worshippers of Baal. Not all, though. It says here, by the word of the Lord, he shut up the heaven, and also 3 times brought down fire. Now, shutting up the heaven, meaning that he prophesied, right? He called unto the Lord, and it didn't rain, right? The heavens, for a period of time, there was no rain. And also 3 times brought down fire, which, this is when he actually called down fire from heaven, as the king had sent, I forgot what position he was, a general or a commander or officer, and he had his troops of 50, and they came there, but speaking with Elijah, it was more in a hostile manner, like, come down from there now, from where Elijah was. And he prayed to the Lord, right? He called down fire from heaven and burnt them up, right, 3 times. It says here, O Elias, how wast thou honored in thy wondrous deeds? And who may glory like unto thee? Who didst raise up a dead man from death, and his soul from the place of the dead, by the word of the Most High. And that was the son of the widow woman, right? And you read, once again, the story, right, and of the account. Elijah ended up, bringing back, right, because her son had died, and then Elijah went and prayed, stretched himself over the child, and eventually the child was brought back to life. Who brought his kings to destruction and honorable men from their bed. Okay, and he didn't actually kill anybody, right, any kings, but let me say he didn't actually kill any kings, but he prophesied of their destruction, right? One being Ahab, and the other being Ahaziah. Let's get that real quick. This is 1 Kings, chapter 21. We'll start at 17. And the word of the Lord came to Elijah the Tishbite, saying, Arise, go down to meet Ahab, king of Israel, which is in Samaria. Behold, he is in the vineyard of Naboth, whither he is going down to possess it. And thou shalt speak unto him, saying, Thus saith the Lord Yahweh, Hast thou killed, and also taken possession? And thou shalt speak unto him, saying, Thus saith the Lord Yahweh, in the place where dogs licked the blood of Naboth, or Naboth, shall dogs lick thy blood, even thine. Yeah, because under the influence of Jezebel, he had this man, Naboth, slain, so that he could get his field, because Naboth refused to sell it to him. And Ahab said to Elijah, Hast thou found me, O mine enemy? And he answered, I have found thee, because thou hast sold thyself to work evil in the sight of the Lord Yahweh. Behold, I will bring evil upon thee, and I will take away thy posterity, meaning I'm going to cut off your line, your lineage, and will cut off from Ahab him that pisseth against the wall. That's all your males from your family line, and him that is shut up and left in Israel. And I will make thine house like the house of Jeroboam the son of Nebat, and like the house of Baasha the son of Ahijah, for the provocation wherewith thou hast provoked me to anger, and made Israel to sin. And of Jezebel also spake the Lord Yahweh, saying, The dogs shall eat Jezebel by the wall of Jezreel. Him that dieth of Ahab in the city, the dogs shall eat, and him that dieth in the field shall the fowls of the air eat. See, and so Elijah ends up prophesying about, the death and the downfall of Ahab and his line, him being one, one of the many kings, but also see here, 2 Kings 1:3. It says here, but the angel of the Lord said unto Elijah the Tishbite, arise. And this is when who was it? Hazael? Yeah. Hazael fell sick. Let me start at verse 2. And Hazael fell down through a lattice in his upper chamber that was in Samaria, and was sick. And he sent messengers and said unto them, go inquire of Baalzebub, the god of Ekron, whether I shall recover of this disease. You have the living God as your power. You're gonna go inquire of an idol? Man. But the angel of the Lord said to Elijah the Tishbite, arise, go up to meet the messengers of the king of Samaria, and say unto them, is it not because there is not a God in Israel that ye go to inquire of Beelzebub, the god of Ekron? Right. Do you not already have a God in Israel? Now therefore thus saith the Lord Yahweh, thou shalt not come down from that bed on which thou art gone up, but shalt surely die. And Elijah departed. Okay, so let's go back, continuing in Sirach chapter 48, where we at with it, 7. He says, who heardeth the rebuke of the Lord in Sinai and in Horeb, the judgment of vengeance. And Sinai and Horeb are referring to the same region. And this is when Elijah fled, okay, to that mount. And let's go there real quick. This is let's see, I think it's 1 Kings 19, and we can start at 8. And here it wasn't like the Lord rebuked him, like harshly, like, hey, you're going off or something. But you'll hear what Elijah says, right, about how he fears that he's the only one left. And the Lord tells him right at the end that no, in fact, it's not just him, but he has reserved 7,000 that have not bowed the knee to Baal. Okay, and the Lord tells him, okay, now go back and then, do X, Y, and Z. So 1 Kings 19:8, and he arose and did eat and drink, and went in the strength of that meat 40 days and 40 nights unto Horeb, the mount of God. And he came thither unto a cave, and lodged there. And behold, the word of the Lord Yahweh came to him, and said unto him, what doest thou here, Elijah? And he said, I have been very jealous for the Lord Yahweh God of hosts, I've been zealous for you. For the children of Israel have forsaken thy covenant, thrown down thine altars, and slain thy prophets with the sword. And I, even I, only am left, and they seek my life to take it away. And he said, go forth and stand upon the mount before before the Lord Yahweh. And behold, the Lord passed by, and a great and strong wind rent the mountains, and brake in pieces the rocks before the Lord. But the Lord was not in the wind. And after the wind an earthquake, but the Lord was not in the earthquake. And after the earthquake a fire, but the Lord was not in the fire. And after the fire a still small voice. And it was so, when Elijah heard it, that he wrapped his face in his mantle, and went out, and stood in the entering in of the cave. And behold, there came a voice unto him, and said, what doest thou here, Elijah? And he said, I have been very jealous for the Lord Yahweh, God of hosts, because the children of Israel have forsaken thy covenant, thrown down thine altars, and slain thy prophets with the sword. And I, even I only, am left, and they seek my life to take it away. And the Lord said unto him, go, return on thy way to the wilderness of Damascus. And when thou comest, anoint Hazael to be king over Syria. And Jehu, the son of Nimshi, shalt thou anoint to be king over Israel. And Elisha, the son of Shaphat, of Abel Abel Meholah shalt thou anoint to be prophet in thy room. Meaning he's going to be prophet in your stead. And it shall come to pass that him that escapeth the sword of Hazael shall Jehu slay, and him that escapeth from the sword of Jehu shall Elisha slay. Yet I have left me 7,000 in Israel, all the knees which have not bowed unto Baal, and every mouth which hath not kissed him. See, so that's where Elijah thought he was the only one left. The Lord said no. In fact, there are actually 7,000 that I've reserved that have not bowed to Baal. Okay, so going back here, was Ecclesiasticus Chapter 48, verse 7 again. Who heard is the rebuke of the Lord in Sinai, Salakia, and in Horeb the judgment of vengeance. Who anointeth kings to take revenge, and prophets to succeed after him. We just read that, right? Hazael, Jehu, and Elisha, who was taken up in a whirlwind of fire and in a chariot of fiery horses. And this was when the Lord, he did exactly that, right? He sent a chariot, a UFO, and he beamed up Elijah in the presence of Elisha and took him up. So he was also translated like Enoch. He was taken straight to the spirit world. Who was ordained for reproofs in their times, to pacify the wrath of the Lord's judgment before it break forth into fury, and to the heart of the father, Oslak, and to turn the heart of the father onto the son, and to restore the tribes of Jacob. Meaning that it was prophesied concerning Elijah, right, that he would have to go and pacify the wrath of the Lord's judgment. That's in Malachi, right? Malachi, I believe it might be a 3rd chapter, or maybe even the 4th. Let's see. Yep. Malachi 3:1. Behold, I will send my messenger, and he shall prepare the way before me, and the Lord whom ye seek. And let me see. I think it's actually, this is a good one too, but what I'm looking for is, it might be in the 4th chapter. Let's take a look. Yep. Malachi 4:5. Behold, I send you Elijah the prophet before the coming of the great and dreadful day of the Lord Yahweh. And he shall turn the heart of the fathers to the children, and the heart of the children to their fathers, lest I come and smite the earth with a curse. And that's what here is being referred to, that he was ordained for reproofs in their times, to pacify the wrath of the Lord's judgment before it break forth into fury, and to turn the heart of the father unto the son, and to restore the tribes of Jacob. Blessed are they that saw thee and slept in love, for we shall surely live. Okay, and let's look at this. This is pull this up again real quick. Okay, this is Sirach chapter 48 and verse 11. Reading that in the GNTD. Let's see, once I'm able to find it. It says, fortunate are those who live to see you come, as well as those who have already died in love, for we too shall live. Hear that? Verse 12, it says, Elias it was, who was covered with a whirlwind, and Eliseus, which is Elisha, was filled with his spirit, because he asked for a double portion. Whilst he lived, he was not moved with the presence of any prince, meaning no prince, basically shook him. Right? Elisha was firm in the word of the Lord, unshaken by any prince or ruler. Neither could any bring him into subjection. No word could overcome him. And after his death, his body prophesied. Now, when it says his body prophesied, I'll read this in the GNTD. But what it means is, it's an account that this is referring to. Nothing was too hard. This is verse 13. Nothing was too hard for him. Even when he was dead, his body worked a miracle. Now, this is the account where Elisha's bones were. You had somebody, there was a man that they were going to go bury. And then on the sudden, I believe there were like raiders that came in. And so those that were taking that man just cast his body, into a certain location, which happened to have Elisha's bones over there. And when the dead man's body touched it, he revived and came back to life. It says here, verse 4. So that's how, in his death, right? His body, quote unquote, prophesied or performed a miracle, as we read. He did wonders in his life, and at his death were his works marvelous. For all this the people repented not, neither departed from their sins, till they were spoiled and carried out of their land, and were scattered through all the earth. Yet there remained a small people, a remnant, and a ruler in the house of David. See, so even after seeing and witnessing all this, Israel still didn't repent. So they were taken out the land, okay, and then carried captive and then scattered, by the curse of the Lord. But as you can see here, the Lord always preserved a remnant, of whom some did that which was pleasing to God, and some multiplied sins. Hezekiah, which is Hezekiah, fortified his city and brought in water into the midst thereof. He digged the hard rock with with iron, and made wells for waters. And he was doing this, in anticipation of the siege that the Assyrians were going to bring upon them, right? Being led by Sennacherib. In his time, Sennacherib came up and sent Rapsacés, and lifted up his hand against Sion, and boasted proudly. Then trembled their hearts and hands, and they were in pain as women in travail, right? Because he was basically speaking in a way that was discouraging them. But they called upon the Lord, which is merciful, and stretched out their hands towards him. So they prayed. It says here, and immediately the Holy One heard them out of heaven, and delivered them by the ministry of Isaiah, which is Isaiah. He smote the host of the Assyrians, and his angel destroyed them. That was the Lord sending his angel to destroy 185,000 of the Assyrians. For Ezekias, which is Hezekiah, had done the thing that pleased the Lord, and was strong in the ways of David his father. And Isaiah, which is Isaiah the prophet, who was great and faithful in his vision, had commanded him, right? So he instructed Hezekiah. In his time, the sun went backward, and he lengthened the king's life. Yeah, because Hezekiah was going to die. But the Lord had mercy and added, I think, an additional 15 years to his life. And the sign of that was that the sundial, right, the degrees would go back. I think it was by 10 or so, which would show, it's kind of like time moving in reverse, right? Because the sundial, the shadow that's cast by the sun as the sun, moves throughout the day, is how they use it to tell time. So it went in reverse, which would only mean the sun itself had to reverse course. So it says here, where we at? Verse 24, he saw by an excellent spirit what should come to pass at the last, and he comforted them that mourned in Zion. He shewed what should come to pass forever, and secret things before they came to pass. It was revealed to comfort us. And that brings us to the end of the book of Ecclesiasticus, the 48th chapter. Lord willing, that was edifying to the elect. In closing, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahushai, Bahasham, Recha Kodash. Until next time, Shalom.